Hi, this is World Series champion Aubrey Huff, and you're listening to Out of Left Field on the grueling Truth Network.
Hey, guys, welcome back to Out of Left Field. Graham and Chris back with you. Good to be back. A lot of stuff to get to starting into the week. Major League Baseball has issued a 5-game suspension for what we will talk about as well. You might hear some differing, I don't want to say opinions, but points of view on this, as I think that there are some different ways this suspension can be looked at. Madison Bumgarner, a pitcher who we've heard plenty about because Chris is a bleeding heart Giants fan, and I can't say the other word I want to do because it's a family show. He has his list of teams that he will not approve a trade to has come out. Really surprising list there. Tyler Glasnow, the leading ERA pitcher in the American League, out 4 to 6 weeks. We will talk about what that effect will have on his team, and a no-hitter and more history as well this week. Let's put the ball in play with top 5, bottom 3 set to come. Tyler Glasnow, the ERA leader for the Tampa Bay Rays, out 4 to 6 weeks with a mild forearm strain. This comes after an MRI revealed that luckily no elbow issues were there, which was the biggest concern. But it is a forearm strain, a 10-day IL stint, effectively because you don't want to go on 60 days because you have to stay the entire 60 days. But he will be out 4 to 6 weeks. A guy who's hitting 6-1 this year, the 1.86 ERA in 8 games. Only one game where he has not had a decision. Has allowed 3 home runs, 10 earned runs total, 55 strikeouts, and 9 walks. Really the best year so far of his of his young career. He's been in the big league since 2016, in between Pittsburgh and then Tampa. Came over from Tampa or to Tampa last year after the Rays traded Chris Archer to the Pittsburgh Pirates. Man, I know you're not overly concerned with this, but the Rays are a team that are kind of sitting in a spot they're not used to, which is in control mildly of the American League East. But as we're going to talk about in top 5, bottom 3, there are a couple of teams making some charges. They finished up a series against the Yankees today, lost this afternoon after a power outage happened at Tropicana Field. Lost, I think, 6-1, a big explosion of offense in the 9th inning for the New York Yankees. But this is, I think, still something that could affect them, as Blake Snell has not been the same Cy Young guy we saw last year. It's more like Glasnow has taken a page out of the Snell book and has been the big piece for Tampa Bay.
Right, and I think that the key to this is that Blake Snell is going to have to sort of step up and be the ace that he's supposed to be and try to make up for the fact that Glasnow is going to be out of this rotation for a little while. 4 to 6 weeks is a long time, but it could have been a lot worse. I mean, forearm strain and UCL injuries often present in similar ways with similar pain down that forearm and the backside of that elbow. So in Glasnow's own words, you know, he says, quote, "Of course, I'm not excited to be out 4 to 6 weeks, but I'm just happy it's not 16 months. And I think that the Tampa Bay Rays and Rays fans everywhere can probably echo those sentiments from Tyler Glasnow, because losing the league ERA leader to Tommy John this early in the season could be hugely damaging to them at this point.
Yeah, and I can certainly understand what he means. I mean, a forearm strain, even some back pain. I experience that weekly carrying the show when you're on. So I understand what he's concerned about. Guys like Charlie Morton, Blake Snell are going to have to step up. Morton looking okay this year. He's 3-0, so 5 games with no decision, but 2.64 ERA and 44 innings pitched. Blake Snell actually looked really, really good the game today. Kind of fell off near the end, a little bit of offense, knocked him out of the game, but had a great game the day prior, actually, or his start prior. They actually were saying that they thought he might have no-hit stuff, and that was coming from the team he was facing. But Snell 3-3 on the year with a 3.62 ERA. So, yeah, we are kind of seeing Glasnow look more like Snell did. A 4 to 6 week, hopefully it's going to be quick. The good thing is it would have only been 2 starts anyway, so hopefully he's back sooner rather than later, and hopefully they still are either within striking distance or still in some modicum of control of the American League East. That remains to be seen, but this is a ball club that, everybody kind of steps up. So in that regard, because so many players just manage to find out what they're needed to do when they do it, this could be one of those things that we see Tampa Bay navigate better than some teams who are much more structured, shall we say?
Sure. I mean,
and I'm sorry, I missed something. I was reading some stats. I came up and your hand was doing something. I couldn't tell if you were waving at me or what it was.
Oh yeah, no, I was just letting you know that I felt like you were the number one person on this show.
Hey, but knowing that is again why I have that forearm discomfort and back discomfort every now and again, because as that person requires me to go ahead and bring you along, for the ride.
But realistically, I could even say that you're number 1 and 2, and I'm just kind of here.
If that's the case, what the hell we need you for?
Good point.
That moment when your insult backfires.
Well, the Tampa Bay Rays are a team that you and I have both talked about sort of at length, not exactly being who they are on the field on paper. And so I'm kind of worried that this is going to put a little dampener on that sort of lightning in a bottle thing that they've managed to catch down there in Tampa Bay last season, and apparently this season too, now leading the AL East by half a game, despite losing to the Yankees earlier today. But it is a little disconcerting. It's a little disconcerting for that team. But like you said, we're going to talk about this in top 5, bottom 3. There are some teams around that are making some moves and doing some things that we expected them to be doing from the beginning of the season that I think are going to sort of upset that precarious balance the Tampa Bay Rays have found, especially now that their league-leading ERA pitcher is out of the picture for a little while.
Right. And this really is a show about pitching. I mean, if you look at it, really, we have pretty much pitchers, and one guy who's going to go in the Hall of Fame because he swung one hell of a stick. And we'll stick with that area of the field and pitching. And let's go to Atlanta, where Kevin Gausman has been issued a 5-game suspension for throwing behind Jose Urena. Now, if you don't recall from last year's, I'm sure it was shown multiple times on different sports outlets, on outlets like Fox Sports, on ESPN, on DAZN, that kind of stuff, where our buddy Adnan Verk now works, which is really cool. If you haven't caught his show on DAZN, dude, to watch him work is awesome. I mean, he looks obviously you're not under the whole Disney moniker anymore, but just the passion with which he has for baseball and the way that you can see he just totally invests himself in the sport really, really is enjoyable to watch. So be sure to check that out and follow him at Adnan S. Verk. Had a chance to talk with him this week, and he's doing really well, which is awesome. So
he takes it in everything he does. Did you see him the DAZN special on the Canelo fight that he hosted? That was really, really well done. He takes that passion really into everything he does. So,
and happy Mother's Day as well to his wife, who they just had their fourth child just a couple of months ago. So happy Mother's Day to her and all of our moms as well, to my mom and my stepmom as well, and of course to you and your wife.
To me?
To your mom.
Oh, yeah, my mom and my wife, right? Yeah. Okay, that's better. I was trying to figure out where I was a mother, and this is a family show.
We can't go there.
This is a family show, sir. So I feel a little bit differently about this whole Urena Gausman thing than I guess most people do. But like I said, I don't condone the idea of throwing at a guy to get a point across, especially not a season later. This is a problem that I find has been repetitive in the game, especially in recent times. It's a new season, man. Have new issues. Let old things go. Why are you throwing at Urena because Acuna got hit last year? I get it. You're gonna send a message to the guy by throwing behind him. If the guy throws at Acuna this year, throw at him, I guess. If that's where it's headed. But he hit Acuna in the wrist last year. Let last year's issues be last year's issues and not 2019 issues, or else they're going to be 2020 issues and 2021 issues. You guys are still going to be throwing at the same jackwagons for nothing, for something that happened in 2018.
It's a way to get base runners,
I guess.
I don't really have. I'm not a fan of throwing at anybody. Obviously, I understand this, I guess, because it really was a Bush League move by Urania. I'm not saying that one Bush League move deserves another, but with the way that Acuna had been hitting the ball, absolutely raking, and that was when he went on that torrid pace of leadoff home runs, like 4 in 5 games or something to that effect, and he hit him because he was just kind of just a young kid, maybe trying to ingratiate himself to a team that really did not have and still does not have an identity. But again, he was immediately ejected. So maybe this is your way of saying, hey, you know what, you don't get off scot-free. And if that's the case, if we're going to start throwing behind pitchers to go ahead and remind them that, this has consequences, I'm never a fan of throwing at guys, but if you're going to send the message behind them, it's the same idea what happened with Syndergaard and Utley. He threw behind him, sent the message, and then granted he got ejected. The difficulty here is the ejection. Not because it was wrong. It wasn't. By letter of the law, it was the proper thing to do. There was really no doubt it was intentional. I think the difficulty, again, that you have is you see what happened. Again, it was similar to what happened with Utley and forgive me, I can't recall, and
Syndergaard.
Well, yeah, I'm trying to think of who Utley had slid into, but it fell off my mind. But that's kind of what the kicker is there, right? Is that he didn't hit him, he sent a message, and you're ejecting him. But at the end of the day, looking at it as an umpire, Jeff Nelson did the right thing, because if you run the risk of a young, immature, most part Nationals team who is, like, as you like to call them, like a quadruple A ball club, if he doesn't do something to stop this now, does it perpetuate throughout the year, throughout the game? So Gausman made a choice that he had to have known could lead to that consequence, and he's dropping his suspension, and he'll go ahead or dropping his appeal, and he'll serve a suspension.
Yeah, and he should, because it's dangerous actions. I mean, he can't throw behind. I mean, throwing at somebody is dangerous. Throwing behind a guy is dangerous. Throwing a pitch at a person could be dangerous. I'm not saying Urania should have got off scot-free, but let's remember that Urania served a 6-game suspension as well.
Right.
The league has stepped in. The league has already indicated to Urania that it is not acceptable. For what he did was not acceptable. I don't think that a year here now, months later into a new season, it needs to be revisited by the teams. The league has stepped in on both sides.
Sure.
So let's move on.
And that was kind of the point of the last time. And I was talking to my dad, and I said, at the end of the day, there is precedent for all of this. I mean, this is almost the exact same situation that we had in the Mets-Dodgers game. So right. The precedent was set. Obviously, it was different there because it happened right after the Bautista-Odor brawl, but the precedent was still set. And right. Like it or not, as an arbiter of the sport, Jeff Nelson did exactly what he was supposed to do in that situation.
Oh, yeah, I think
there were no warnings issued pregame, but I think that he realized what could continue to matriculate down if he didn't stop something.
Right. Yeah, no, I think the ejection was well-founded.
All right, so let's go ahead and move somewhere that I know that you want to go. Well, maybe you don't want to go, but we're going to go there anyway.
Oh, I want to go there.
Okay, so Madison Bumgarner is on the last year of his 5-year, $35 million deal. All right. Signed it prior to the 2013 season. And because of his tenure and time in the big leagues and his time with the exact same team, he has an 8-team no-trade clause. And those teams have finally leaked out. I believe it was first reported by the Athletics' Ken Rosenthal. And this is reportedly the teams that Madison Bumgarner will block trades to: the Atlanta Braves, the Boston Red Sox, the Chicago Cubs, the Houston Astros, the Milwaukee Brewers, the New York Yankees, the Philadelphia Phillies, and the St. Louis Cardinals. Okay, so where the hell do you want to go?
Well, there's a lot to unpack there, and the teams that are on that list are just as interesting as the teams that aren't, in my opinion. You look at this list and you see, well, Atlanta Braves, they're contending. The Boston Red Sox should be contending. The Houston Astros or the Chicago Cubs are contending. The Astros are definitely contending. The Brewers are probably, I think, are our unanimous pick to win the National League this year if the Dodgers don't step up. The Yankees, obviously contenders. Philadelphia Phillies have become contenders with all the moves that they made in the offseason. The St. Louis Cardinals, the same way, moves they've made in the offseason. They're playing really well right now. They're in charge of that central. They're putting the moves on that central division.
Right.
But, you know, the interesting thing for me is you would think that the first team on that list would be the Los Angeles Dodgers, and they are nowhere to be seen on a list of teams who he would block trades to, and they are a contender, they are interested, and they need arms in a rotation. So
I guess the only kicker I would think is that a team like Arizona and a team like LA, I would assume that the Giants just wouldn't do business with it. It's like, would the Yankees do business with the Mets? 2 different leagues, same city, and probably the heck with that. So maybe he wants to go ahead and move it elsewhere, but
the Dodgers and the Diamondbacks are in the same division with the Giants.
Well, no, I understand. My point is that may be the point of why he didn't list them, is he wouldn't expect the Giants to make an interdivisional rivalry type trade.
Well, he might not expect it, and I can understand him not expecting it, but I think maybe he would go back and look at some precedent. It wouldn't be the first time. And also, if the Giants are going to trade Madison Bumgarner, the only time I could consider the Giants ready to trade Madison Bumgarner is when they are absolutely ready to admit that it is time to pull it down and go into full rebuild.
So tomorrow.
And, so at the beginning of last season. So the thing is that if they're really willing to tear it down and go into full rebuild, then they need to know that they don't expect to be contenders again until after Madison Bumgarner has outlived his usefulness as a starting pitcher, probably on the downside of his career and getting ready to retire, is when I would expect the Giants to be able to pull out of a rebuild and contend again. And if that's the case, who cares if he goes to LA?
Right.
I mean, or even to Arizona. And if Arizona, I don't think Arizona is the destination because they don't want the contract. But if LA is willing to pay the money and they got the talent to send back our way, back up north, then I think the Giants absolutely would do it.
The one that surprises me the most is Houston.
Yeah,
I don't understand that at all.
To play with Verley and
and you become the lefty on the team because Keuchel's gone.
Right.
That is the one I saw that I'm like, why?
And
you're going to a state with no income tax, no state income tax. You're going to a team that is already pretty much in control of that division. The Mariners are in a free fall at the moment, and we saw Justin Verlander go there, understanding that I don't want to leave somewhere I've been my entire career, and he was happy in Detroit. He wasn't happy with the record, but he loved being in Detroit. And he went ahead and forewent, if you will, passed on a chance to go to L.A. and chose Houston. That should tell you something,
right? And Can you imagine the 1-2 punch of Verlander followed by Bumgarner?
Don't forget Garrett Cole.
I know, but you go left, right, left like that on a team in a 3-game series.
We did that for years.
Sorry, you go right, left, right on a team like that in a 3-game series, and I mean, you might as well just pencil in W's.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think the Houston Astros is a head scratcher. I honestly think that the Cubs and the Brewers are head scratchers too. I understand not wanting to go to the East Coast, even the Atlanta Braves. I understand not wanting to go to the Phillies or the Phillies. You got to deal with Bryce Harper and Madison Bumgarner.
I don't get the Braves one. He's from North Carolina. That one is weird. That one is weird to me, just based off of where he's from, where family is. You know, it's probably one of the teams he grew up watching because of the Ted Turner ownership time. The Cardinals I get because they're a team that, you know, they're showing flashes, but they're not back into a full contention point yet. And I don't know if he really wants to be at a place like Boston or New York or Philly. And you know what? I don't blame him. I don't blame him there.
Thing about Philly, he's got to deal with Bryce Harper, who he's had issues with in the past. They do not get along.
Yeah.
New York is, especially the Yankees, that's probably more spotlight than he wants.
Right.
Boston's probably the same way. Boston's probably more spotlight than he wants. Although I think that him going there to replace a David Price type person would probably be a better option for the Boston Red Sox. Than almost anybody who might be on the trading block right now. And you know, looking through the league, there's just really not many other teams that I could think of that would be a good fit for him. Maybe a Los Angeles Angels.
I mean, I want to let's real fast. I just want you to think about this. All right. So I'm going to give you the top 2 teams in every division.
Okay.
Tampa Bay Rays, not on his list. Probably not going to make the move because they don't really have it's not their style, and they don't really have the amount of assets in the farm system to do it.
Right.
The New York Yankees on his no-trade list. The Minnesota Twins and the Cleveland Indians. I don't see the Indians doing it. They're selling off pieces. They're not going to make the move. The Twins, maybe, not quite their style, but maybe that'd be really odd. That'd be really, really
the Twins have gotten into being a homegrown team, and
right.
I feel like,
and they made a couple of small moves with like the Nelson Cruz and whatnot to bring in the veteran, which is great. I don't see that. In the AL West, the Houston Astros on his list, the LA Angels, like you mentioned, okay, but they're 19-20. The Astros are the only team in that division right now who are above 500.
Right.
In the NL East, the Philadelphia Phillies and the Atlanta Braves, the only 2 teams at or above 500 and the top 2 teams in the division, both on his no-trade list. In the NL Central, the Cubs and the Brewers, again, top 2 teams, both on his no-trade list. Then you have the Dodgers and the Diamondbacks in the NL West.
And I just don't –
I think he will strongly reconsider this list before it gets close to time. If he's wise, he will.
And let's be honest, this list is a leak, is a reported leak. So who knows for sure if this is his final list or if who knows for sure if he only gets 8 teams. I mean, he might have full no trade clause ability in his contract.
No, I believe that the contract, has been out there for a while. So that would have been. I think that is based off of a CBA part as far as the teams that he gets at a base point, and we already would have seen the verbiage in that. So I'm pretty sure that 8 teams is where it is.
I don't really see a team, worth the trade to. I mean, the Angels are the only team that I can think of.
Right.
And they're not out of contention. They're 6 games out of first place in the West, which with the Houston Astros playing the way they are, that might be out of contention in the West, but they're only 2 games out of the American League wild card right now. So, if that's where they want to set their sights for that wild card win, a guy like Madison Bumgarner could be a difference maker there. You add him to that heavy roster, that heavy hitting roster with Trout and Ohtani and all those guys.
Yeah, but I mean, you look at Houston. Houston knows how to work this. You're bringing a guy on his last year. You put him in there. You let him flourish. Then you offer him the deal. I mean, you have what I think that they inked up Verley for 2 or 3 more years. You could bring Bumgarner in, probably get another 3 or 4 year deal, maybe a 5-year deal with him, with a couple of options at the tail end of that. I mean, you could really set yourself up with Cole as well to have those 3 arms on your roster for the next 2 to 3 seasons easily, and still have a nice overlap with 2 of the 3. Right. So I really think that if he's wise and can look, I think Houston is an area where he should go. Man, there's a lot of upside here.
Yeah, no, I agree. I agree that Houston's a place for him to look. And if he's going to leave it on his no trade clause list, then the only thing that I can think of is he didn't want to go anywhere.
Right. And if that's the case, then I have no sympathy for wherever he would end up. That's on him.
Bienvenidos a Miami.
Yeah. Speaking of the Houston Astros, a former arm for the Houston Astros now on the West Coast in Oakland made history a couple of days ago. I think that might have been 2 days ago. The second in as many seasons to throw a no-hitter. Sean Manaea threw one last year, and Mike Fiers gets the second no-hitter of his career. How? I don't really know, but he did. And, hey, 13th in Oakland A's history. The crazy thing here, right, there's an hour and a half delay because a bank of lights went out, and finally goes ahead, able to take the field, and goes all the way to go ahead and gets himself his second career no-hitter. 35th pitcher in history to toss multiple no-hitters. We've seen a couple of those actually happen in our lifetime, right? Verlander, Mark Burley has done it. I mean, it's we've been quite fortunate.
Yeah, and not only does he go on the list as number 35 with multiple no-hitters, he also goes in as the 300th no-hitter in Major League Baseball history. And let's be honest, this was a really great outing for him, but his pitching wasn't really the only thing that earned him this no-hitter. And we've talked about this before. Perfect games and no-hitters are sort of that time when all things are firing at just the right time, at just the right moment.
There's always one. There's always a play, right? There's a play in center for Burley's perfect game. There's, what was it? Was it Pagan or Blanco, the dive for Matt Cain?
Right.
There's always something.
And there were 2 in this game. Laureano has a home run robbery early on in center field, robs a home run. And then Jurickson Profar makes a laid-out diving catch behind second base. I mean, not only fully laid out and extended with both hands, but also snow coning it. I mean, it was as close to dropped as a ball could possibly get and still stay in the glove. So, good for Mike Fiers. I think he did a really good job. He went well past where they wanted him to be as far as pitch count, having thrown 131 pitches to finish this no-hitter. But I'm glad that they let him go out in the 9th inning and attempt to shut it. You can probably imagine he was on a pretty short leash in that 9th inning. But, I mean, good on him. They did give him – he was supposed to start today on Mother's Day, and he wanted to start today. But they ended up giving him an extra day's rest after throwing 131 pitches. So he won't be starting – he did not start today. He will go ahead and start tomorrow.
And, of course, I mean, the A's probably hold the most famous Mother's Day game, I think, in history, when Dallas Braden got his perfect game with his grandmother in the stands, obviously, which was huge. So, Fiers, one of those. I mean, he is not by any. I mean, he's not a big name kind of pitcher. He's a name that but he has a 6.81 ERA. 83 strikes over 133 pitches. So again, that's 50 pitches that missed the zone. Just one of those things, that he's there, but he's not the most consistent. He's a hard thrower. He's the guy who hit Stanton in the mouth, knocked him out a couple of years ago when he was in Milwaukee. So he's a guy who has been in the right place at the right time. It's worked out for him. And again, he manages, like you said, to become number 300 all time in no hitters for baseball history, and the 35th pitcher to have multiple no hitters in his career. Of course, no one's ever going to be Nolan Ryan and have 7, but hey.
So one of the most interesting quotes, one of the most interesting things that I think that was said about this no-hitter actually comes from Manaea, who you guys will remember threw a no-hitter last year in April. And he said, quote, "It was way more nerve-wracking than when I was doing it. I was shaking on the bench. It was crazy seeing him do it," end quote. Which is crazy. I mean, the last time he was involved in a no-hitter obviously was his own. And for him to say, it's one thing to do it, but it is really stressful to watch somebody else do it.
Which, that I believe that. I really believe.
Right. I think once you get late into a no-hitter as a pitcher, you're in a zone, right? You're in a place where, nobody's talking to you. So something's going on. And,
unless you're Tim Lincecum, who basically required contact in order to keep himself happy.
Right.
Remember that? Everyone's like, "Dude, get away from me!" No, come on.
Contact.
I was amazing. It was amazing how many other guys were more kind of turned off and standoffish. Like, get the hell away from me.
Right. Yeah. But I was really hoping we were going to get one early this year, and I really hope that it's not the only one of the year. I hope we get to see a couple like we did last year, because no-hitters are fun. No-hitters for me are just as fun as those games where you see guys hit 3 and 4 home runs.
Well, Hyun-Jin Ryu took one into the 8th until it was finally broken up. So, I mean, we have guys who are capable of doing it. And right now, with this kind of feast or famine type of batting style, we are kind of primed to go ahead and, if you get a guy who gets guys uncomfortable and out in front and unable to really pin down what's going on, there's definitely the possibility there for more of them.
Well, who has been able to pin down what's going on for about 18 years now?
I'm going to go with Albert Pujols, but that's just a guess.
Yeah, Albert Pujols has definitely been able to pin down what's going on at the plate pretty much for his whole career, but he did on May 11th go ahead and notch his 2,000th career RBI, which puts him in a very, very small field as the third player to ever hit 600-plus home runs, 3,000-plus hits, and 2,000 runs batted in.
Now, mind you guys that RBIs did not become a stat until, I believe, 1920. So Babe Ruth has officially 1,990 career runs batted in. But that does not count the time when he was with the Red Sox as a pitcher, anything prior to that 1920 season. So it's expected and widely regarded that there should be a fourth in that category, but because it wasn't being officially counted, Babe Ruth stands outside of the 2,000 RBI club.
Right. Caveat to that, though, his home runs that were hit prior to 1920, himself as an RBI for the home run have been added to his total.
Okay. Well, that's interesting.
Still puts him under 2,000. But you have to imagine that he was clearing bases at some point.
Yeah.
Right. So
So, I mean, obviously, there's something I always enjoy about guys getting their the 3,000th hit or their first career hit or some big milestone as a home run. There's just something really, really enjoyable about it being, the long ball, where play is the ball's dead. You can kind of celebrate it. You can enjoy it. And Pujols did just that. Yet the fan that caught it refused to give it up. He came out later and said that, that he wanted to get, he didn't want to give it up. He wanted to keep it. He was asked by, I believe they were playing Detroit, and he was asked by Tigers personnel to give it a, if he would would like to meet Pujols or Trout and get some signed memorabilia and exchange the ball. He said no. He refused, left the park. Next day, obviously this I'm sure he was just lambasted for not, for being that guy. A day later, he finally comes out and says he changed his mind, was going to give the ball to Pujols or the Hall of Fame. He said, quote, "I slept on it. All I ever wanted to do was sleep on it. I slept on it, and I woke up, and I think Pujols is a class act. He's not my player. He's not my guy. I don't deserve the ball. I reconsidered 100%. I'm either going to give it to him or the Hall of Fame. I don't want any money." Okay, well, first off, you weren't going to get any money, number one. Number two, you left the ballpark without ever getting it authenticated. And Albert Pujols came out and said, quote, "If he doesn't want the ball, he can give it to Cooperstown. Hopefully then everyone will be happy, but I don't want it. He deserves it. It's his decision," close quote. And Pujols handled this whole thing as classy as he handles everything.
Right. But the problem with not getting the ball authenticated prior to leaving the park is now Cooperstown probably won't want it.
Right.
And at that point, if Pujols doesn't want it and Cooperstown doesn't want it, and it's not authenticated, this guy now has one of the most worthless historical baseballs in the history of historical baseballs. And he's got this ball that is the 2000th RBI of a guy who is absolutely a first ballot Hall of Famer in every way, shape, and form. And because he wasn't thinking about what he was doing or what the repercussions might be, now he can't really prove that he has that ball.
Right.
I mean, yeah, we saw him pick it up. Yeah, we know it was him, but do we know it's that ball anymore? Right. And that's the issue that he's going to run into for the rest of his life. I mean, he's going to have that ball, I assume, for the rest of his life, since I doubt Cooperstown is going to want it from him unauthenticated. I don't know that they've made a statement yet. I don't know if you saw anything from the Hall of Fame in which they made a statement about not wanting the ball because of its authentication or lack of authentication. But Pujols doesn't want it. He's Albert Pujols, right?
Right.
How many other balls he has? He's got 600 home runs. He's got that ball. He's got 3,000 hits. He's got that ball. 2,000 RBI is great, and it puts him into this club, this really exclusive club. But let's be honest, he's got a whole bunch of record balls.
Yeah, and it's up to the Hall of Fame. Everything that I have seen, the Hall of Fame has not responded. Again, I mean, it's like Pujols said. He had a chance to give it to me on Thursday, he had a chance to give it on Thursday. He declined. That's fine. It's his right. So no need for him to change his mind now. Let him keep it. And is he probably like, well, that kind of stinks? Yeah, but I mean, at the end of the day, he's got plenty. He's probably going to reach. He's going to reach probably second all time. I doubt he has the longevity to get to first, which I think is 2,300 RBI. So I doubt he'll get to first all time. But either way, I mean, the amount of baseballs he has, and I've always, I think we all kind of sit here and go, well, what would I do? And some, you might be that fan who just wants to keep it. I always have liked to think that I would want to just give it to him and shake his hand and walk out the door. Let me sit and talk with you. Let me sit and have a beer with you. I think it'd be more, can I just sit and just have a beer and talk, like tell me some baseball stories? All right, cool, man. I mean, just something of that, I think being able to interact with those guys as normal guys rather than players is something that I like to think I would appreciate more.
Yeah, I think so too. And it's not as though members of the Angels didn't try to get this ball for him. I mean, there was Pujols gear offered. There was Mike Trout signed gear offered, and it was denied. And that, again, like Albert said, that is the fan's right. There's no responsibility or no onus on the fan to absolutely give that ball back.
Nope.
So, I mean, it's not. There used to be, right, in Major League Baseball, you used to actually have to throw the ball back. In the years prior to the number of balls that we see Major League Baseball players or Major League Baseball clubs go through in an average game now, it used to be like high school ball, where if the ball went out of play, you had to put the ball back on the field so they could continue to use it. Now,
I think even with football, if a ball goes out of play, I think a lot of times you got to bring it back in. Hell, I was at a game, they were just doing the kickers were warming up, and he lit one into the stands. They made you throw it back down. It's like, dude, it's a warm up ball with that, but nope, got to have it.
Yep, NBA too. NBA, if a basketball goes flying, careening into the stands, that's the property of the National Basketball Association. It comes back onto the court.
Yep.
So it's an interesting situation, but as usual, Albert Pujols handles it like the 3-time MVP, first ballot Hall of Famer that he is. So.
I mean, Stephen A. Smith says it, all the time, and I think it definitely counts for him. He is class personified. If you ever want to see how to be a professional, the Angels got two of the best on there with Trout and him. So I, tip of the cap to him. Easily could have gone ahead and popped off, especially because it's not one of his fans. It's a Tiger fan. They're on the road, and still just handles it very well.
Right.
All right, so let's hit it, man. Top 5, bottom 3. Last week we obviously did our power rankings. Top 5, bottom 3 is a weekly ranking of where we currently see teams sitting this week. Who was the best team over the last 7 to 10 days? What's going on? Where are we at? Number 1 for me, the Boston Red Sox. They're 8-2 in their last 10. They've won 5 straight. 22-19, sitting 3 games sitting out of first place. They're already in the playoffs with the wild card if it ended today. I mean, man, they look they're starting to kind of find what they should be doing, and if this is what it took to wake them up, and this is the kind of the run and the streak we're going to see, AL East better wake up.
Yeah, I agree. I don't have them at number 1. I have them at number 5 just because this is the first time they've done anything worthy of being on this list. But and there's a couple of other 8-2 teams out there that have been in control of their division, are in control of their division, and I didn't put them at number 1.
Which means you probably have the Astros at 1. I had the Astros at 2.
Actually, I have the Twinkies at 1 just by virtue of the fact that they are the number 1 team in baseball right now.
Okay, so you have the
and I don't think anyone expected the Minnesota Twins to ever be the number 1 team in baseball, except maybe on day 1.
Yeah, I don't have the Twins on my list. I have the Astros at 2. They're 8-2 as well. They're also winners.
I also have the Astros at 2.
Now I have the Cubs at 3. They're also 8-2 the last 10. Now they've won 1 straight, but at 23-14, starting to all of a sudden get things figured out here. They win I think a 15-inning game the other day. So I've been liking to see what they've been doing. The Phillies at 7-3 in the last 10 games. They've been up and down. Maybe they're starting to kind of get some firm footing now that we're closing in on 40 to 45 games into the season. So starting to kind of figure out what's what. And the odd one for me, winners of 3 straight and sitting in 3rd place, at least for this week. Again, only this week, the Pittsburgh Pirates.
Okay.
As much as I blasted on them, when you can roll off 7 wins in 10 games and you've got a bit of a streak going, I mean, hey, I've seen Major League, right? We win today, we win tomorrow, we've won 2 in a row, we win more. That's a winning streak. Folks, the Pirates are on a winning streak. So I felt that, at least they were deserving of a tip of the cap at the tail end of my top
5. So my top 5 is I got the Twins at 1 because they're the best team in the league right now. And again, like I said, I don't think that anybody expected the Twinkies to be at a plus 51 run differential and leading the league in wins. I got Houston Astros at number 2. All of the arguments that you made for that stand up perfectly to me. I have the Cubs at 4.
Okay.
And I had the Yankees at 3. And here's why. The Yankees, by virtue of the fact that they are 7-3 in their last 10, they won 1 in a row. But most importantly, because they were able to beat those division leaders and at least manage to keep that spread between the two of them even, right? Coming out of a 3-game series against the Tampa Bay Rays, who
they lost 2 of 3 though.
Sure, but they were able to keep that. I think
they won 2 of 3.
They won 2 out of 3.
They won Friday. That's right. It was a 3-game series on a 4-game set. That's right.
Right. So they won 2 out of 3 against the division leaders. They're 7-3 in their last 10. I realize they've only won 1 in a row, but for me, being 2.5 games ahead of the wild card, I think that's just where they landed on my. And then I got the Cubbies and then the Red Sox.
So are you a guy who likes to get your duck in a row?
My duck in a row?
Yeah, you said they've won 1 in a row. I didn't know you actually could win 1 in a row when it's just 1. So well, I figured you also get your duck in a row when necessary.
I mean, the Chicago Cubs have only won 1 too, so I'm not really sure where you're going with this argument.
Just never heard 1 in a row before, that's all. Just curious.
Okay.
Just curious. Snap.
Wow.
Bottom 3, Marlins, because
Duh.
I mean the Marlins. St. Louis Cardinals are my number 2 team in the bottom 3. 2-8, losers of 3 straight. They are sliding down there now. They're 22-19, sitting 4th in the NL Central. Again, this is more by winning percentage. And the number 3 team, the Seattle Mariners, they are 2-8, losers of 4 straight. They are, as we said, a precipitous slide. Again, they got blown out today. I think 11-1 or 11-2 by the Red Sox. They're back to a -14 run differential. The Red Sox came in, I think swept this series, plus winners of 2 more prior. Mariners are a team that really just they have lost whatever it was they started out the season with. Is gone, and they're looking a lot like what the White Sox did when we began the show 3 years ago.
We're pretty much Pat. I flip-flopped the Mariners and the Cardinals just because the Mariners have lost 4 in a row. The Cardinals have lost 3 in a row. They're both losers.
Exactly. They're both losers.
They both have lost 8 of their last. They both have lost 8 of their last 10 games, but the Mariners lost 4 in a row. The Cardinals lost 3 in a row. So I put the Cardinals at number 3 and the Mariners at number 2.
Works for me. I mean, I wouldn't complain on that. I think it pretty much sits where, makes a lot of sense of where everything is right now. I mean, both teams need to figure something out, and still, even being in our bottom 3, the Cardinals are still one of 4 teams in the NL Central who are above 500. So that is still a division that can be competitive. It's just going to be a matter of where things will finally finish out.
Well, I think it is a game. I think it is a division that's competitive because, from first to worst, you're only talking about 6.5 games.
Right.
And even then, from first to fourth, you're only talking about 3 games. So that is a competitive division. Not like, the AL West looks competitive. So all those teams have similar numbers of wins. But you'll notice that from 1 to 2 is 6 games.
Right.
And then you go to a game and a half from there. But, I think that the NL Central is going to be a lot of fun to watch, especially if the Chicago Cubs are going to start turning it on. I would like to point out that I'm not a fan of Chicago Cubs outside of the actual playing of the game of baseball. They did something this week that bugged me a little bit because they ejected a fan for life for apparently using that white power OK sign.
Right.
You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah, Like the one where you put your thumb and forefinger in a circle and you put it on your hip, and then if you look, you punch the guy. Like, it was something
Right.
in middle school all the time.
So that's what he was doing. But what they said he was doing was the other thing where the white supremacists do the OK sign, and it's supposed to be a W and a P for white power, where you hold it upright instead of down. And it's so they're saying that he was throwing up the white power sign, and they ejected him for life from Wrigley Field because he did it next to an announcer's head like this,
Yeah. Well, next to Doug Glanville, who is
right,
an African American. So
right.
I mean, that's
and I can understand it happening, but they made that their number one story of the day on the same day that they reactivated Addison Russell. So seems like a little bit of misdirection. That got to be their big, huge story, right? This white supremacist was using the white power sign at a Chicago Cubs game, and he got ejected for life. But it's on the same day that they reactivated Addison Russell from his 40-game suspension for, domestic abuse.
Right.
A guy who has no business being on the field, and that absolutely should have been the biggest story of the day.
All I will say is I hope the Cubs did their due diligence prior to that choice. I'm not going to pick a side, because if that is what was happening, then they absolutely should have done what they chose to do. If it wasn't, and the guy was just on a dare, my buddy's watching. Hey, did you see me? Okay, yeah, and then you're going to slug him because you're being stupid and you're too juvenile personalities, something you and I do not have.
No, not at all.
But I do hope that they at least did their due diligence and have something beyond that to say, you know what, I think this was maybe premeditated in a way that he was trying to make something that was there. If not, then that's pretty rough for that guy. But again, he did something that I never knew what it was. So I saw it, I'm like, okay, so the guy is trying to. I would be completely ignorant to what that was. I had no clue. So
he made a choice. He absolutely did make a choice, and it has been that particular finger symbol has been in the news a lot recently.
That's why I don't watch the news.
No, yeah. So yeah, white supremacists have been using it as a white power hand gesture. So I understand it being an issue, but definitely the biggest news issue of that day should have been the activation of Addison Russell.
Absolutely. All right, guys. Again, thanks for hanging out with us as you do every week. We always appreciate it. Be sure to stop by our social media pages, Out of Left Field with Chris and Graham on Facebook, at OO Left Field on Twitter. Give us a follow and a like as well. Be sure to go to thegruelingtruth.com. Plenty of stuff on there with with some of the new boxing fights coming up. Obviously, getting into minicamp, OTAs, not too far away from the NFL and college football season, and NBA playoffs, as well as the Western Conference finals are just about to be set, as are the Eastern Conference finals after the final game between the Raptors and the 76ers tonight. We hope everybody had a safe and happy Mother's Day. To all the moms out there, to my mom especially, thank you for everything. I love you very much. I'm appreciative of all that you've done for me, even when, as a kid, I'm sure I was not appreciative at all. And again,
so am I. Happy Mother's Day to Graham's mom.
She's pretty awesome.
She is pretty awesome.
And happy Mother's Day to your wife and you.
Wow.
Hey, man, if I'm number one, I can't have you be number 3, so you're going to have to be number 2.
I appreciate it.
Because this is just odd.
It is, yeah.
Guys, again, thanks for hanging out with us. Be sure to stop by next week. Enjoy the show. Enjoy your week. Be safe. We'll see you all next week here on Out of Left Field.